Some more details about the region. So the region we have, it's about 6,000 hectares, 6,500 hectares. The average area per grower is around 0.5 hectares. So it means it's a region of very small growers, maybe like Burgundy. We have about 2,600 hours of sunshine. So it's perfect to grow grapes. The precipitation on the rainfall is around 1,100 millimeters. So nice. Sometimes it's too much. Like this year, it's been a nightmare with a lot of pressure with disease. We have around 96 producers in the region, and in total, the region produces 5.5 million bottles a year. This is the region, okay? Just to put, to benchmark, the company that I worked for before, I used to produce 15 million bottles, okay? Esporão. So the region in total just produced 5.5 million bottles. At Vadio, we produce 40,000 bottles. Okay, so small producer. What else I can talk about? So where we work in this valley. It's called Val Dom Pedro. Just a small intro. So Val Dom Pedro is this area here. Okay, do you see it's where it's a bit more greener here, where all the vineyards of this area are concentrated. Why the vineyards are concentrated in this area? Because this is a geological map of the region. So if you see here, we have this blue area. So this blue area is where we have, over here, it's where we have the limestone and the clay soils. So the organization of the region was based on the soil type. So where we have clay and limestone, we have vineyards. Outside of these areas, what we have forest, or we have the town, the villages, okay? But in these areas where we have the limestone, was only possible to grow the vineyards. So this is why the vineyards are completely concentrated in small spots, like this one, where we have our vineyards, okay, over here. So, and this is all the blocks that it's possible to see in this area, okay? So in total, this valley has about 300 different blocks of vineyards. So yes, 300 blocks of vineyards with 160 hectares of land. So it's more or less half an hectare per block. So this is like Burgundy, okay? To compare again to another region where I work in Alentejo. I still work for another company in Alentejo. So the company that I'm work, just in land, we have 800 hectares, one single producer, 800 hectares. So in Bairrada, we have about 160 hectares split by 300 producers, okay? So it's a completely different region. So on the red spots is where we have our vineyards. We have 3 spots. We have this vineyard, Vinha do Recharte. We have Vinha da Calçada, Vinha do Fojo, and Vinha do Barrio, where we have our vineyards. This is one of our vineyards. It's Recharte, so it's hillsides. This is one of my favorite vineyards. Over here is where we have the whites. And this side, it's where we have the reds. So why we have in this side the reds, in this side of the hill, we have the whites. Because this side of the hill over here, the soil is a bit more sandy. So I decided to put the whites on this side of the hill. On this side, it's only limestone and clay. So we put here the baga, which is the only red grape that we grow. And this is the typical landscape of Bairrada, surrounded by forest. Why the forest is so important? Remember, in the beginning I said we receive a lot of influence from the ocean, and sometimes what happens, we have very strong winds. So the forest helped me to protect against the winds that comes from the ocean, okay? So this is another vineyard, it's called Vinha do Barrio. This is a bit more flat, just reds. As you see, everything is green. It's organically farmed since 2014, more or less. This is a very old vineyard that we own. This vineyard has more than maybe 19 years old, maybe 100, we don't know yet. It's not possible to know because the registration of vineyards in Portugal started in 1932. In this vineyard, the registration of this vineyard is from exactly 1932. So it has at least 19 years old. This is another vineyard, Cancelinha. And this is an overview of the valley, okay? Again, the vineyards on the bottom of the valley and the forest protecting the vineyards, okay? And this is the very last vineyard that I bought. It's called Vinha da Calçada. So again, another overview of the valley, and it's possible to see the fogs that come from the ocean. And the fogs are this cloudy, they are very important to control the temperature on the valley. So during the winter time, this is a view of our vineyards. We seed the vineyards with different plants. And this is just a small introduction about how do we farm. So we seed with different plants that have a huge impact in our soil. So instead of we do fertilization, what we do, we seed with different plants that in this case, this is a plant that helped me to capture the nitrogen in the air. So instead I'm adding nitrogen to the soil, I'm buying in a company some nitrogen, I'm using the plants, the natural plants to arrest the nitrogen on the atmosphere. Again, another different plant, this is faba beans. And over there is some weeds that help me to structure the soil. This is an overview of the winery, very small winery, and this is my father. Okay. What we are doing here is collecting some plants. This is, I don't know the name in English, but it's, this plant is very rich in silica, which is a very important compound to control mildew in some disease. And this is a biodynamic technique that we use as well. So over here, we are collecting, and then what we do, we we do like a tisane, a tea to extract the compound. Okay, so the presentation about Vadio and the vineyards and the region, I think we can finish it, and now concentrated on the wine. Okay. So sorry.
Luis, how old is your father?
My father is turned 79 2 weeks ago.
And very active in the winery. He's very active in the winery. He's very active.
It is. He loves to work in the vineyards. So we have vineyards in my family for many generations. Vineyards was part of, so wine in Bairrada is part of our meal. We don't think about wine as a beverage. We think it as part of our diet. It's impossible to have a meal in Bairrada without wine. Okay, so since when I was very young, my father drinks a bottle of wine a day between the lunch and the dinner time, in the dinner. So wine is very important, but he didn't care about which brand he was drinking. You just want to have wine, and good wine. That's the most important thing. Okay. Maybe, I don't know, turn on the microphones if someone has some questions.
Anyone would like to ask a question for Luis at this time, feel free to do.
No questions.
Luis, what's a local dish that you pair with the Baga wine, would you say?
It's a nice question. So Bairrada is famous for two things: wine, sparkling wine, and the typical dish is suckling pig. Okay, and the suckling pig is, I think, it's even more famous than the wines. Okay, so we have people around all Portugal just to come to Bairrada to have this dish. So people from Lisbon, people from Porto, they drive 2-3 hours just to have the suckling pig, and then they come back to the hometown. So, and the wines, I think they reflect very well the dishes that we have in the region. So, like I said, my father, he always had wine during the meals. So the wine was important to balance, to I would say to match with the food, not to be the star, not to be the main thing. Was to match with food and to make the food more pleasant. So to make the food a bit more pleasant, what we need a wine very well balanced, a wine very well integrated, and with nice freshness and acidity. So this typical dish, which is a suckling pig, so it's a very small pig, a baby pig in fact, is very rich and has some fatness. So what we need to cut that fatness. We need freshness, we need acidity. So Bairrada wines, they tend to have a lot of freshness, acidity, okay? So they are perfect to match with the local foods. Okay. Any question?
So I'm glad you mentioned the suckling pig. We have a national dish here called lechon. It's a spit roasted, but not baby. It's more mature, and people drink it with beer more often, but definitely with your wine, it complements, as you said, the freshness and the acidity will help that. It's like your vinegar. You know, we eat it with vinegar. In other parts of the country, they eat their lechon or spit roasted pig with vinegar. So they can replicate that with wine instead.
Okay, I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a picture of it. No. No. Sorry. Just a second. So this is the suckling pig, okay? Is like yours?
That's correct. Almost identical.
Okay. So just a very interesting thing. So we, of course, we cook it in a oven, and to eat the oven, we use only the shoots from the vines. Okay, because the shoots, the wood from the vine is the temperature that can reach is very, very high. And at the same time, it gives flavor to the meat. So that's it. Okay. So maybe now go to the wine. So the wine that we are tasting is this one, Vadio, the classic one, 2015.
That's correct.
A very nice vintage. One of my best vintage so far in Bairrada. So I see many people with the wine already. Good job, buds. Thank you, guys. So it's how this wine is made. This is 100% Baga. This is made from a single variety, Baga, which is the most important grape variety in the region. It comes from different vineyards. The vineyards that I showed before. Let me turn on the map here. Just a second. Are you seeing the map now?
Mm-hmm.
So this wine comes from different vineyards. All of the vineyards planted in limestone again. So it comes from this block, and this block, okay? So what we do, we pick each vineyard and we ferment each vineyard completely separated. Then after the fermentation, the alcoholic fermentation is finished, what we do is we rack the wine to the barrels, and we keep the wine at least for 24 months in the barrel. Then we taste the wines after the 24 months, and we do the final blend. So some wines are a bit more richer, some wines are a bit more fresh, and we try to find the right balance between the different blocks. We do 24 months or 2 years in the barrel because it was important to the wine to get more integrated in the wood, integrated the acidity and the alcohol and the freshness. So the 2 years in barrel are very important for us. You don't feel any oak in the wine. What you feel is just the integration of fruits and some already bottle aromas. It's like spices.
Luis, you don't use new oak. It's all used oaks. That's correct. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We don't use any new oak because the wines in Bairrada are very elegant, and the alcohol is quite low as well. So the wines doesn't have enough body to support new oak. So in Alentejo, so I'm in Alentejo. So this is my winery in Alentejo, and over here is almost 100% new oak. But Alentejo, the wines are a bit more richer and powerful, so they support, like Australian wines or Californian wines, they support very well the new oak. The wines from Bairrada are a bit more, like I said before, elegant and fresh. So it's impossible to use new oak because the oak will be very present in aroma. You understand what I mean? So the wine, the color is very light. So this is a characteristic of the grape. It's very light. And if I can compare to another variety, international variety, I will say that this is like Nebbiolo. It's very, very powerful, high acidity. The tannin sometimes quite present. So the time in wood is very important to integrate those two different characteristics of the wine. Some people say that this is like a Nebbiolo, in fact. In my opinion, this is a transition. Baga is a transition between Pinot and Nebbiolo. Of course, they are completely oppositive, okay? Because Pinot is very light and elegant, and Nebbiolo is a massive grape. is powerful. I think Bag is in the middle, but if we trace genetically, Nebbiolo, Bag, and Pinot are very similar. So
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. What month do you usually do the harvest for this kind of grape variety? Is it still summer or
Yes.
after summer?
So it's a nice question. So Baga is a very late ripening variety. So on the north hemisphere, we do harvest between August until October, more or less. It depends on the region where we are. In Bairrada, with this grape, usually we peak on the very last days of September, okay? Which is a difficult, and it's very challenging because usually on the 21st of September, we got the equinox, and sometimes we got some rain. So we need to manage very well our vineyards to support those rains. So which means that we need to have the canopy very well arranged. We need to have the berries and the grapes very well exposed to dry very fast. So to support and to be ready for the ripening, even if we have some rain.
Okay, and then the 2015, you said it's your one of the best vintage. Is it do you have like a good summer on that period? Because I heard a similar story in Abruzzo in Italy that one of their best vintage is 2015, and they said that 2015 is really one of the best grape harvest that they have in Italy. And so if you are looking for a vintage that you want to keep or to keep for years, you don't need to buy any like a branded wine. Just choose any variety, any kind of wine that was with 2015, and more or less you are 80% sure that you can keep that kind of wine for many years.
Yes. Yes, 15 for us was a very great, was a beautiful vintage, very nice. First, because the spring was very, very dry, so we didn't have any disease. The summer was dry, and during the harvest we didn't get any rain as well. So which means which helped me and allowed for the maturation goes very smooth and very constant, I would say. So we didn't have any stop the maturation didn't stop during that time, and the grapes didn't lost the concentration that they have naturally. Okay. Any question?
Hi, my name is Chi.
Hi, Chi.
It's a beautiful wine, by the way.
Thank you.
I just want to find out, how does the wine change over time? So it is a wine with very good ageability. I mean, given the tannin structure and just how the acidity is still very high, even after 5 years from vintage. And right now it's a lot of ripe red fruits, a lot of currants, a lot of spices. How does the wine age? Because I've never actually tried an older Baga. So how does it change in characteristics in terms of aroma, in terms of palate,
Okay.
all of that?
Thank you, Chi. It's a very nice question. Bairrada wines are famous for last in bottle for a long time. They can age for 20, 30, 40 years. It's possible to drink even white wines with 20 years old now. Why? Again, because Bairrada has this perfect combination between weather, which is fresh and you don't lose so much acidity during the maturation, and the variety, like Baga, which has enough structure to age in the bottle. So this combination is very important, weather and variety, and of course the way that we make the wine. How the wine ages? It ages, so we start to lose this primary fruit, like you said, the red berries. Sometimes it's possible to smell some flowers as well, white flowers. But the most important characteristic is, with some time in bottle, with 1 year, 2 years in the bottle, we start to show the eucalyptus notes. So you start to go to that way. And we got more like eucalyptus, menthol notes, herbal notes, leather, and of course the palate start to be more integrated, start to be more soft and round, because so we are drinking a wine now with 5 years old. The wine is still, the acidity is still quite present. It's not aggressive, but it's present, of course. But with more time, the wine will be more round and soft, and will be more pleasant to drink. I love these wines with at least 10 years old. So we have a late release, which is, so in 2025, we're gonna release the same vintage. So we're gonna release 2015 vintage, just to show how the wines can age in the bottle. So what we do, and there's not many companies doing in the world, we do it at Vadio. We save 10% of our production to sell after at least 10 years. So it means 2015, we start to sell last year. We sold out at the moment, but we have about 10% of the production in our cellar to sell in 2000, to start to sell in 2025. Just to show exactly that the wines can age very well.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Questions?
I have a question. I'm Sani.
Hello,
May
Sani.
I know your definition of organic wines, or what type of farming practices you do to make your wine organic? Thank you.
Okay, great question. So what we do, our vineyards are certified already with organic. What we do, we don't use any inorganic product or synthetic chemical in our vineyards. What we do is we use copper and sulfur. They are chemicals, but these chemicals, it's possible to extract them from the earth, from the soil. So they are allowed to use in the vineyards. But we don't use it, we use it in a very moderate way. And we want to reduce the use of them. So this is why I showed the picture before where we were collecting some plants to do a compost, to do like a tea to spray in the vineyards to protect the vineyards against the disease. So what we do, in terms of farming, we don't use any synthetic product, only organic products, which means copper and sulfur, and some composts from herbs. In terms of winery, what we do in winemaking, we don't use commercial products. Only the wine is fermented with native yeasts. It's natural, completely natural, stabilized in the barrel. So it's the way that we do it. At the winery, we are very, very minimalist as well. Did I answer you?
Obrigado.
Thank you.
Question. Luis,
Okay.
what's
Hello?
your
What is that? Sorry?
old vintage for Vadio? The oldest.
The oldest. The oldest vintage, commercial vintage is 2005.
Wow. Will you sell
Yes.
that to Gran Hacienda wine so we can taste a 10-year-old Vadio?
Yes, it's possible. We still have about 200 bottles available in our cellar. And it's possible to taste the wine, yes.
Yeah. Then next question is, the wine, as you said, is very light, right? Very light, right? It's a cross between Pinot and Nebbiolo, right?
Right.
And that your alcohol content is only 12.
Yarina.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
12.5.
Only
So
12.5,
we
yes.
can make more.
Yes, it's so I think people, special like in the new world, they think that wines need a lot of alcohol. It's like in California or Australia, they always look for very high alcohols usually. And it comes because usually the varieties, they tend to, the maturation be very fast, and the weather as well help to increase the sugar level, because when we have a lot of sun, usually the sugar accumulation is quite fast and big. At Bairrada, the influence of the ocean, the winds, all the humidity that comes from the ocean keep the sugar content very low. So we don't have so much alcohol. But at the same time, and this is a very interesting thing, it's like, do you cook, Elizabeth? Do you used to cook?
Of course, I do.
Okay. So imagine the weather like to be in a oven, okay? When you cook something in your oven, and you can cook at 250 degrees, or to cook at 100 degrees. The difference is just the time. When you cook at 250 degrees, what you're gonna have? You're gonna have sometimes completely burned outside, and inside is not, it's raw. When you cook at 100 degrees, what you're gonna have? You're gonna have a very juicy meat. It's completely, you just need more time, but it's possible to cook everything at the same time, but very slowly. So this is like in Bairrada. So what we are cooking at slow temperature, at lower temperature, but with more time. So the wines, what we have more flavor, we have more texture. We don't have so much sugar, but sugar, we don't need the sugar. Sugar is just to produce alcohol, okay? So what we need with flavor, and flavor, we get flavor with maturation. So when we have longer time to have maturations, it's possible to have longer maturation, we have more flavors. Do you understand what I mean?
Sure. So let's taste your wine. This Vadio.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Luis, before we wrap up our winemaker session, we have 3 wines in the portfolio. We're drinking the Vadio 2015.
Okay.
We have 2 wines that perhaps you can talk about. One is the Vadio Grande,
Okay.
2014, and as you mentioned, you gave us a few late release bottles. This is the Vadio 2009.
2009. Okay, great.
Maybe just a quick info about the Grande, which is your top wine, would you say, along with Rexart, or?
Yeah. So when we start the project just with the classic Vadio, which is the blend of all the different blocks that we own. The Grand Vadio came in 2011, 2010, 2011, and the concept behind the Grand Vadio is what we try to show is the best of the best grapes in that vintage. So what we choose the best grapes from the harvest, and we bottle just those grapes, those wines. So what I'm looking for at the Grande Vadio is to show what is the best of the best Baga in that particular vintage, okay? So the concept is about the variety. Then what we go to the Rechart. You don't have it here, and the Rechart is a single vineyard wine. What I'm trying to show now at the Rechart is what is my best vineyard of Baga. So the concept behind all the family, all the portfolio is we start with the classic Vadio that we are tasting now. And with the classic, I'm showing what is Baga in Bairrada. It's a blend of different vineyards. Then we go a little bit further, and we concentrated on the variety. What is the best of the variety? What is the best grapes of Baga? And then we finish on the vineyards, okay? So it's 3 levels of 3 different concepts concentrated and finished on the vineyards, okay? And to finish, so I talk a little bit about the late release wine. So you have the 2009. So it's a 10 years old edition. So we, like I said, we save 10% of the production and we sell it after 10 years. So you bought the wines last year. So we were in 2019. So it was the wine from 2009.
Is there any difference in doing the Grand?
So the Grand, the Grande is a bit more rich and
Heavier.
It's heavier. Someone said heavier. It is. It's a bit more rich and powerful. And in fact, the winemaking process is a little bit different because I want to preserve a little bit more the fruit because I want to be concentrated on the profile of the variety. So what I do is I bottle the wine before. What I do is, so the classic Vadio is bottled after 2 years. The Gran Vadio, it's bottled after 1 year in the barrel. So it's bottled earlier because I want to preserve all the fruits, the varietal fruit from the grapes. So it's important to bottle at a very early stage.
So the 2014 vintage, is that okay to drink now, or do you suggest?
It's okay to drink now. Of course, it's 6 years, 6-year wine, 6 years old wine. It's possible to drink, but and the wine is showing very well. But in my opinion, this wine needs another 3-4 years to start to show very well.
Luis, how about the 2009?
Yep.
Relate the drinkability of that now.
It's showing beautiful now. So 2009 was a very hot vintage, very warm. And at that time, I was trying to produce wines a bit more stronger and richer. So like everyone, we changed the way that we do things, the way we interpret the wines, like which wines we like. So at that time, I was more interested in richer and concentrated wine. So that wine, I think, is perfect now, but will not last in bottle like 2015 or 2014. At that, those wines, I was more focused on elegance and freshness. So those wines it's possible to keep 14, 15 more time in bottle. 2009 coming from a very warm, hot vintage. And the way that I was trying to produce a bit more rich and powerful wines, I think the wine it's beautiful now, but I'll give it more 10 years, not more than that.
I don't think any of my wines last longer.
In your cellar. It's difficult, I know. Now it's showing beautiful. More questions?
Thank you, thank you.
Luis, hopefully when this is all over now, the pandemic, we hope to visit you. Hope you can welcome us in Vadio.
Everyone is very welcome. I would love to share what we are doing and what we look to produce at Vadio. I love to share the region and of course to share the suckling pig with you.
Very good.
So everyone is very welcome. Next time you come to Portugal, please give me a call. But have all my contacts, and all of you will be very welcome to Portugal.
Thank you. Let's all toast to Luis for his time.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you for your time. It's been a wonderful time to share the wine with you. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Just a reminder, next Saturday, 5 p.m., we'll continue with the winemaker session as well on Tuesday. We'll go to South Africa and on Tuesday, Ribera del Duero in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, all of you can join us.
Yes, thank you so much for the fun masterclass session.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.